Jason, great to talk to you.
Thank you.
And what a way to say thank you to our troops. You and your family invited 4 soldiers to come to your farm to take part in a pheasant hunt this past weekend. I am sure you had one heck of a great time.
Yeah, we sure did. This is the second year that we've done this. Last year was the first time that we've ever really tried something like this, and we had a great year. The birds are up in Iowa this year, which is a great thing. We always like to have lots of birds to get out in the field and chase around. So it was a really good year for us.
How did you come up with this idea to begin with? You have a great story behind all that.
Yeah, we kind of fell into this. I mean, my dad, his father was in World War II in Pearl Harbor, so we've always been connected to the military and supporters, and he made it through, but was missing for a while out there. So, we've always had a little bit of history of military in our family, but my father did not serve, and nor did I. So, we kind of have always wanted to support the military any way that we can, and I'm from a very rural community in Iowa called Lakota, and it's a town of like 180 people. So we don't have a lot of current servicemen here, but we had a lot of great ones in the past. Mm-hmm. So really, we've always been supporters, but this came about kind of just by surprise. We've always wanted to support our military, but we found an opportunity to do so, and I was led that way. I was on a business trip up in upstate New York. I worked for Caterpillar, and I was up there, and I was traveling across the state on I-90, and it was getting to be long days traveling that road. So I stopped off at a bookstore and picked up a copy, actually an audio copy, which I had never really done before, to pass the time, of a book by Jim Schuler called Final Salute. And that book is about the notification process that Major Steve Beck went through when Marines, in this case, had been killed in action, and the process of grieving with the families and getting them through, et cetera. And I was just really touched by that. And that led me to investigating further the process. And I thought to myself, there's nothing that we can do for those guys, but we can honor their memory by supporting the guys that get injured over there. So, long story short, I ended up taking a trip to Arlington National Cemetery. And for after a work trip, I was up in Washington, D.C. in the Arlington area, and I found some of the guys that were actually highlighted in the book with their families buried in Arlington. And you go there, and if people haven't been there, they have to go. I think every high school senior should probably have to go there. I think they should do that. And it's just really striking what you see when you get to Arlington.
Yeah, I mean, in some areas are more of a history in the sense of World War II and World War I, but you went to the most recent area of the cemetery.
I did. In the book, and really, I give a lot of credit to Jim, and I've reached out to him, and he's reached out to us, and he's sending us some copies of his books for some of the Marines that we had on the trips that we've done the last couple of years. But in the book, it says, there's a section on the cemetery that's not really highlighted greatly on the map, and it's not in the forefront of the cemetery. It's kind of back off in the corner, and it's not, by JFK or any of those, very famous folks that people always go visit. It's called Section 60, and that's where most of the recent folks that have been killed in action, most Iraq and Afghanistan, but all over the place, and then some folks that have just passed away from natural causes are in that section. But that section is, in my opinion, the most striking section of them all, because there's so many young people from my generation, but also now 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and you just think to yourself, all these people here have given the ultimate sacrifice, and you go in there, there's young families, and it's just really, really touching, and that's really what got me thinking that we can't do anything for these guys here, but honor their memories by doing something for the guys that did make it back, that gave a lot of sacrifice by being wounded, and that's what we started to do.
Yes, and this time you invited soldiers from Camp Lejeune.
Yeah, we one thing I've learned and in this process is that they like to be called Marines.
Yes.
So we
because
brought
once
in
a Marine, always Marine. Because my dad was a Marine.
That's right. We've stumbled over that a few times, calling them soldiers, and
yes.
And the guys will say, "Oh, are there soldiers here too?" And we say,
That's funny.
Sorry, Marines.
Yeah.
So we got 4 in this year, and we got 4 in last year. Great guys, and they are Marines and everything that goes along with it, to the point, action oriented, and they've been through a lot. I mean, we've really learned, and what I would want people to know about these guys, and they probably won't come out and say it, but some of these guys have had a lot of action and they've had a lot of injuries,
Yes.
but they don't talk about them.
No.
And when people look at them, they're expecting to see an arm or a leg gone. And a lot of the injuries are back, spine, brain injury related, foot, leg, that if you looked at them, you say, you know what, there's not a major injury. And I think the first year that we had the folks here, I think everybody here thought that they'd see major traumatic injury. But the point is, there's so many folks that get injured and have these explosions happen, IEDs around them, that you may not be able to see it, but it is there, and they have a process of healing that is physical and also emotional that has to happen. And that's I think our event, we're doing a physical activity, pheasant hunting, and that's part and parcel of what we're doing. But these guys are so mentally tough that even when they're injured, they're on the comeback trail per se. It's like the pain's not there.
Yeah.
They don't let it come through to the forefront. If we're going to walk 5 miles in a day, we're going to walk 5 miles in a day, and they're going to be right there alongside with you.
But so many of them, some of these Marines, so many of these soldiers, it is a physical, but it's also a mental trauma that they live with. And so many of them come home, and it's that help of getting them back to living civilian life again. And that's what taking them out on these hunts really helps do, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and this has been a really eye-opening experience for my whole family and our community. Like I said, our community in Iowa, north central Iowa, very patriotic, great people, farming community. These people will do anything, and we bring these 4 guys in here. This is the second year that we've done it, and it's the most support you could ever see. Like I told you, we had, I think, I don't know what the number is, 180 people that live in our town, and we had last night when we kind of wrapped up the festivities of our evening, we invited local veterans and we invited the sponsors and the supporters of the event, which there were numerous. I mean, most of them were local and going way above and beyond. And we had 400 people at that banquet, and we didn't even open it up to the public. There was probably 150 or 200 veterans there. There were probably 50 support staff and volunteers and sponsors, maybe 75, and then my family, like my extended Becker family, that are kind of all around the state of Iowa, were helping to serve the meals, et cetera. So, 400 people in a town that's 180 people, and it's it's an invite only type of event for the local veterans is pretty amazing.
And I can imagine the look on these Marines' faces must have told the story of their appreciation.
They did, and the one thing I learned this year is that we were actually welcomed in the state by the governor of Iowa, both the last 2 years. So Governor Terry Branstad and Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds, just fantastic that they're willing to take time out of their schedule to welcome these guys. And we had the Patriot Guard and the Patriot Riders are all to welcome them. And they come out and they told me after, they said, well, we didn't really know what to expect. But, we don't see ourselves as heroes. We got blown up. A couple of them got blown up 2 or 3 times. One guy had run into 4 IEDs as leader of his vehicle group, because he was the lead guy every time, and he had hit 4 of them, and also had been hit with a mortar attack. So these guys say, we've been blown up, but we're doing what we want to do and what we love to do. We don't consider ourselves heroes, but getting here and seeing all that support in a community that's not a Marine Corps community, they're all at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and everybody's a Marine there. A lot of people are Marines there, so they come here and they go, I don't know if we deserve all this pomp and circumstance.
Well, they do. They sure as heck do.
But
and
they
all
do.
Of them, yes, and all of them were Purple Heart recipients. And I know my dad, as you said, my dad was a Purple Heart recipient as well in the Marines, and they don't talk about it. But the one thing is, when you do ask them about it, they look, no matter what their injury, no matter what they're trying to deal or cope with, they look you right in the eye and they say, hey, I would do it all over again.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah,
they would. So it's just it's the process has been really solid, and I can't say enough about. It's really the support. We couldn't have ever done it. We've been getting a lot of the publicity and a lot of the people are like, oh, it's such a fantastic thing you do. But absolutely, it's just been amazing, the local support.
And you did it through Wounded Warriors?
Yeah, through the Wounded
Mm-hmm.
Warrior Battalion, actually, East, which is in Camp Lejeune, working
Mm-hmm.
directly with the Marine Corps. So we had some folks there that really supported us by getting us the guys. And that's probably the hardest process, honestly, is that we put all this stuff together and we plan it and we do everything we can. But because these guys are on a rehabilitation program physically, and everything has to check out, right? So this is kind of an end goal for a lot of these guys, from what I've been told from the battalion, that they might get there and then either they might be able to get out, they might get back into active service, actually be deployed again after they're recovered, or they may be medically retired. So you may have some folks that say, I'm absolutely in, we're going to make this a goal, and they get there and something happens where they can't come. So you can't really plan that far ahead. So we want to have 4, and we've gotten 4 both years, but it can be kind of touch and go in that process.
Well, thank you for all you're doing, and I think it's a message to all of us to provide the support and care any way we can to those who have sacrificed so much for us. It really is, and they are true heroes. They may not call themselves heroes, but in my eyes, and they are true heroes.
Well, they absolutely are, and the 8 that we've had in the 2 years from the Marine Corps have just been the types of guys that you would hope they would be.
Yep.
When they come out here, they've given their all, and they're willing to do it. And a lot of them are still wanting to get back into the fight, and but they do it because they love their country, and they've had such a profound impact on our community that everybody wants to be involved and everybody wants to help out, because they see, what, these guys are putting it all on the line for us, and the least that we can do is show them our appreciation and give them a good time. And what better way than to come to Iowa and see some of the country and hunt some pheasants.
So before I let you go, was it a successful hunt?
It sure was. We had some amazing dog handlers. We ran short hairs. We ran some English pointers. We had some labs as well, and so we had all local area guides that are all avid sportsmen. Take a lot of pride in their dogs and a lot of pride in their hunting, and we had really good hunting. So I think the guys got close to the limit both days.
All righty.
And it was fantastic. And, these guys, some of the lands, we hunted on some of our own personal land that's in Wetland Reserve Program, but there were other people that are avid hunters that held their land off in Iowa, in the prime hunting area for pheasants in Iowa, that held it for 3 weeks past the opening day to let these guys be the first ones to step foot in that field.